This is Christopher John Björknes. It is September 6th, 2024. I'd like to say hello again to Candace Owens. It appears that you watched my presentation, Candace Owens Shmuley, in which I recommended to you Israel Shahak's quotation from Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, where Schneerson differentiated between the bodies of Gentiles and Jews and said that Gentiles are an entirely different species. And he also said that the souls of Gentiles derive from three satanic spheres. I suspect you're going to be attacked on that, and people are going to say that Shahak incorrectly contextualized what it was that Schneerson actually said, and they're going to try to mystify it and do their spooky Cabalistic magic on you and make it appear that you're wrong. In my presentation, I traced out the whole history of it through the Tanya of Shnoyer Zalman, the first Rebbe. Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson was the seventh Rebbe, and also Lurianic Kabbalah, the Zohar, and I'm going to give you even a couple of really good extra sources today, and I'll briefly go over all that history once again, because again, I think they're going to try to lie and claim that it's not true, and I have absolute 100% absolute proof that it's true, and a couple more really juicy sources that I'm sure you will like. I have a presentation prepared where I want to explain to you that this is not simply about Rabbi Shmuley or RFK Jr. I hope you caught my list of videos. I've been exposing RFK Jr. as a puppet of Chabad for over a year now. I'm the only person who's been doing it. I expose the whole Kennedy family's connections to Chabad. And in that vein, I want to demonstrate to you that Chabad is a global power that chiefly operates at the moment through the Troika of Benjamin Netanyahu, Vladimir Putin, and Donald Trump. So here are my bullet points for my presentation today. Let me start off congratulating you on obliterating Rabbi Shmuley in your debate. He tried to chastise you for using a laptop, which is ridiculous, because a debate is meant to arrive at the truth, and he requested sources from you. I noted that he provided absolutely no sources, which is typical rabbinical arrogance. They believe that Gentiles are not entitled to Jewish sources and that they need not cite anything to Gentiles when talking to them because the rabbis are the source, and anyone who questions the rabbis and the sages is doomed to live in hell boiling in excrement like Jesus Christ. And in many of my presentations, I've given the Talmudic sources for all of that. A debate is not meant to be a gotcha sporting match. A debate is meant to arrive at the truth, which you did by utilizing your laptop to give him the very sources he requested. And again, I didn't see him citing sources. So these are what I'm going to be discussing today. As I said, I'm going to go over and give you a couple additional sources to the Kabbalistic belief that Gentile souls supposedly derive from three satanic spheres: cloud, wind, and fire. I'm going to discuss the Chabad Troika of Benjamin Netanyahu, who met with the Rebbe. There's a good video online about Netanyahu meeting with the Rebbe. Vladimir Putin, who is tied to Chabad through Rabbi Berel Lazar, who is the chief rabbi of Russia, and I'm going to explain how that happened and how Putin made it happen for Chabad and for the oligarchs, including Abramovich. And Trump, who is tied to Chabad through his daughter Ivanka and his son-in-law Jared Kushner, as well as Alan Dershowitz and other people who are prominent around Trump, who are linked to Chabad. I'm going to talk about the rite that they go through, the rite of passage, where they visit the Rebbe's grave. And that's a very weird, very Cabalistic ritual that they undertake, like going to the Wailing Wall. I'm going to talk about the Baruch Goldstein massacre and the King's Torah, which is a product of Chabad and which is utilized to justify the murder of women, babies, children, and non-combatants in war against the Gentiles, which is being utilized to justify the massacre and genocide of the Palestinians today in Gaza and the West Bank. I will discuss with you Education Day and the Noahide laws. The Education Day is official government policy which has incorporated, in violation of the First Amendment, the religion of the seven Noahide laws that are found in Sanhedrin, in the Talmud, and in the Midrash. And Education Day celebrates Rebbe Menachem Mendel Schneerson's birthday and falsely claims that the American government is based upon the Noahide laws in violation of the supreme law of the United States Constitution, First Amendment. And I will talk about the Holocaust and the Rebbes. So let's start digging in to all of this. This is what I presented to you in my presentation, Candace, Owens, Shmuley. You have read through this, obviously, and it seems you've gotten the book and gone through the book, which is a great source. Again, I suspect they're going to try to claim that Israel Shahak and Norton Mezvinsky were falsely contextualizing when they translated that the soul, non-Jewish soul, comes from three satanic spheres. So let me leave absolutely no doubt that that is what Chabad Lubavitch believes. It's incorporated into their foundational work written by the first Rebbe who founded the Chabad sect, Shneur Zalman. It's in his book, the Ha-Tanya. It is also in Lurianic Kabbalah, and in the Zohar, which is where the Kabbalist Shneur Zalman got it. Rabbi Shmuley was talking about the Frankists falsely claimed that they all converted to Catholicism. In reality, as Gershom Scholem and others have argued, many of them became Hasidic. The Hasidic movement from Baal Shem Tov arose in the very region that was saturated with Shabbatarians. Many of those Shabbatarians became Frankists when Jacob Frank came on the scene, and many of those Shabbatarians and Frankists converted to Hasidism. Hasidism is based not only on Shabbatarian antinomianism, it is also based upon the philosophy, the pantheistic philosophy, and also that rejects the laws of Moses, of Spinoza. So let's go over some these new sources that I can give you that absolutely prove that Shahak got it right when he talked about the three satanic spheres. This is from a book, Chabad, the Hasidism of Rebbe Shneur Zalman of Liadi, by Roman A. Foxbrunner, an authority on the subject. You can readily find it in libraries and online, the complete book. I'm going to be quoting from pages 80 and 107 to 108. On page 80, it says that Rebbe Shneur Zalman, the first Rebbe, again, Schneerson was the seventh, underscores in most discourses his clear axiological purpose in expatiating on the angelic hosts was to demonstrate that for all their awesomeness, they were distinctly inferior to the divine soul residing in the body of every Jew, as distinguished from the Gentiles who have satanic souls. So not only does Chabad believe that Gentiles derive from Satan and have satanic souls, he believes that Jewish souls are divine, contain the divine sparks, and that those souls are superior even to the souls of the angels. The angels' souls are inferior in their mode of service, and according to one discourse, their lifespan is shorter because they are inferior in origin. Souls, the angels don't actually have souls, human souls. Jewish souls descend from divine thought, the inner aspect of each world, while angels are created from divine speech, the outer aspect. So this proves that Chabad believes that angels are inferior to Jewish souls, that Jewish souls are divine, and then it goes on to prove that Rabbi Shnoyer Zalman makes it very clear that this analysis applies only to the souls of Israel. Gentile souls are of completely different and inferior order. They are totally evil, as in satanic, with no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Consequently, references to Gentiles in Rabbi Shnoyer Zalman's teachings, which is basically the Tanya, are invariably invidious. In general terms, they were created only to test, to punish, to elevate, and ultimately to serve Israel in the Messianic era as Noahide slaves. And I'm going to get into that. What they're really going to do is try to exterminate all of us. More specifically, even their wisdom is actually foolishness because it leads to ego inflation and arrogance rather than to the self-nullification of chokhmah, which is wisdom. It pollutes the mind with the potential impurity of kelipat noga, the shining shells. Its highest achievements are descended from the most external aspect of the lowest supernal source, meaning the three satanic spheres, cloud, wind, and fire, as I've explained. All Gentile endeavors, including acts of benevolence, are self-serving. Their courts of justice are harsh and cruel. That's why they want to replace them with the Noahide laws, which call for the beheading of Christians and other idolaters. Their charity does not meet with the requirements of tzedakah because they lack faith that makes tzedakah so valuable, the trust that God will provide for the donor and reimburse his donation. I'm not going to go through and read all of this, but you can see what it says here. And this is absolute proof that the text that I provided you with is 100% correct and accurate. As I said, this is repeated in the Tanya, which was written by Shnoyer Zalman, the first Rebbe, based upon Etz Chaim, which was written by Chaim Vital to record Lurianic Kabbalah. Isaac Luria, the Aritzal, did not write down his thoughts. They were written down by his student, and that is the source that discusses the souls of the Goyim of the world, which emanate from the Kelipat, meaning the shards of the shattered vessels that conceal the divine spark, which contain no good whatsoever, as written in the Tree of Life, Portal 49, Chapter 3, that all the good that the nations do is done from selfish motives. So you can see that that source that I just quoted is 100% spot on. This is what I quoted to you from Etz Chaim, The Tree of Life, which documents Lurianic Kabbalah and describes the three levels of soul that the Gentiles have souls which derive from the klipot, the evil shattered vessels. These are the Zoharic Cabalistic sources which say the same thing, that predate Lurianic Kabbalah and inspired it. All of this is said to derive from the Merkavah, the chariot mysticism, based upon the first chapter of Ezekiel and 1 Kings 19, 7 through 10. I explain it in much greater detail in my presentation, Candace, Owens, Shmuley. This is where Rebbe Schneerson was talking about the 7 Noahide laws that became Education Day in the U.S. and how they're going to try to implement them by force onto the Gentiles. And these 7 Noahide laws call for the decapitation of Christians and other idolaters like Hindus. Another one of the sources I wanted to make you aware of is this article on Kabbalah in the article on, let's see, what is this? Gentiles. It is the Wikipedia article on Gentiles. You can easily find it online. One of the prominent rabbis in Palestine, Mandatory Palestine before it became Israel, he died in 1935, was Abraham Isaac Cook. He was not a Chabadnik, so this is a general Kabbalistic belief. And Rabbi Abraham Isaac Cook, who is one of the most prominent rabbis in Jewish history and a supreme authority, said the difference between the Jewish soul in all its independence, inner desires, longings, character, and standing, and the soul of all the Gentiles on all of their levels is greater and deeper than the difference between the soul of a man and the soul of an animal. For the difference in the latter case is one of quantity, while the difference in the first case is one of essential quality. What he is saying is that the Jews have the divine soul, the holy soul, and Gentiles have the satanic soul. That's the difference in quality. You can go through this article. There was something in the Kabbalah section that I wanted to cite. Here again, we have Isaac Luria. Israel possesses the 3 levels of soul, nefesh, ruach, neshama, from holiness. The Gentiles possess only the level of nefesh from the female side of the shells, the klipa, the klipot. For the souls of the nations, the Gentiles, the goyim, come from the klipot, are called evil and not good, since they are created without knowledge, de'at, the 11th hidden sephirah, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The animal soul of man is the good and evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara. The soul of the Gentiles comes from the 3 shells, wind, cloud, and fire, which are listed in Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 4. All of them evil. They are without God, as I proved in my dissertation. And again, we see all of these sources saying the same thing. So if they try to lie to you, Candace, here's all the proof in the world that you need that what I informed you about is absolutely 100% correct. And though he was contextualizing a bit in the translation, he was correctly contextualizing something that was essential that might otherwise have been missed. So he was helping us, not harming us, not deceiving us. Shahak was enlightening us. The Kabbalists have this as their oral tradition. They have deliberately tried to keep it hidden for thousands of years, and they never wrote it down, and they continue to speak of it in code. So let's start getting into that global power that these people have in their Troika of Netanyahu, who met with the Rabbi, and Putin, who is controlled by Chabad. Putin was raised by Hasidic Jews, and Putin made Berel Lazar, a Chabadnik, the chief rabbi of all of Russia after he ousted Gusinsky, who was the head of the World Jewish Organization. So there was a prophecy that Netanyahu would be the last prime minister of Israel, and he would usher in the messianic era and hand over the kingdom of Israel to the Messiah, who would be the reincarnated soul in some people's minds of Menachem Mendel Schneerson. You can find this online. Hopefully this URL will come through. Netanyahu and the Rebbe, there's a video on it on YouTube. Why Messiah prophecy haunts Netanyahu. Netanyahu was told by a powerful Jewish religious figure, that was the seventh Rebbe, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, pictured here, that he would be Israel's last leader and hand the scepter to the Messiah. How does this so-called prophecy affect Netanyahu's political calculations, and who is the mysterious religious figure honored by successive U.S. presidents, including the Kennedys, simply known as the Rebbe? This is tremendously significant because Chabad Lubavitch is a messianic apocalyptic cult. One of the things that Rabbi Shmuley said was that Israel has nuclear weapons. He also said that he is good friends with Benjamin Netanyahu. That implies that he has governmental sources which have informed him absolutely and with great certainty that Israel has nuclear weapons. That is a violation of international law, no less than it would be if Iran proclaimed that they had nuclear weapons. Rabbi Shmuley ought to be investigated by the international authorities and asked who it was who led him to know with absolute certainty that Israel has nuclear weapons, and Israel ought to be brought into the courts and forced to hand over those illegal nuclear weapons. Candace, I suggest you look into something called the Samson option. Benjamin Netanyahu is one of two Messiah figures, actually four and even more Messiah figures. There is the Messiah, son of Joseph, like Jesus Christ, who is the Messiah anointed for war. It is Benjamin Netanyahu's duty to bring us into the final battle of Armageddon as the anointed Messiah, son of Joseph. Benjamin Netanyahu is descended from the Gaon of Vilna. In a book called The Kol HaTur, Song of the Turtle Dove, the introduction starts out noting that the Gaon of Vilna is the Messiah, son of Joseph, and was to be the Messiah to bring the Jews into Israel. That has passed on to his direct descendant. Netanyahu has said this himself. Messiah, son of Joseph, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Jewish Messiah, anointed for war. The Gentile messiahs in the Chabad Troika are Donald Trump, who is a Chabadnik through his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and his daughter, Ivanka Trump, through Alan Dershowitz and other figures related to him. And as I said, Vladimir Putin, who is a Chabadnik through Berel Lazar, through Roman Abramovich, through the Chabad movement, which controls Russia, and through the Hasidic Jews who raised him. I wanted to let you know that in 2008, I don't know if he has since changed his views, Rabbi Shmuley Botek did not claim that Rebbe Schneerson was the Messiah. So I don't know if he has since changed his belief, but he pointed out that Halacha, Jewish law, specifies that the authentic Messiah would set up the temple and ingather all the Jews and fight the final war and all the things that the final Messiah is supposed to do, and Schneerson never accomplished that. So you can ask Shmuley directly what it is he believes today, but I wanted to give you a heads up about that because it's important to understand what he actually represents. But there are about a 50% margin of Chabadniks who do believe that Rebbe Schneerson was the Messiah, and they also, all Chabadniks, all Kabbalists, all Jews believe in reincarnation. It is called Gilgul, and it is a very important big part of Lurianic Kabbalah, and that soul of Messiah, son of Joseph, all souls can be broken up into subdivided souls, which is why both Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin can have the Gentile Messiah, son of Joseph's soul, and why Benjamin Netanyahu and others can also have the Jewish Messiah, son of Joseph's soul. There's a front and back side to everything, so there is a Gentile Messiah, son of Joseph, and a Gentile Messiah, son of David, who will be Islamic. The Messiah, son of Joseph figure is the Christian Western side, and then the Messiah of peace, the Messiah, Islam is called peace, the religion of peace. It represents Messiah, son of David, who is the Messiah of peace. Peace is achieved through the extermination of the Gentiles, so that this war between Gentiles and Jews, which started with Cain and Abel, which extended to Esau and Jacob, which extended to Ishmael, the wild man who is at war with everyone, that war will only be consummated and won when Gentiles are exterminated. As I discussed, there is this rite of passage that these Chabadniks put their people through, especially their Shabbos Goyim and the political leaders. And before both elections in 2016 and 2020, and probably coming up in 2024 this year, Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner made the pilgrimage to the Rebbe's grave because they are both Chabadniks, going all the way back to Harvard. Jared Kushner was involved, heavily involved with Chabad. Lubavitch, and again, Donald Trump is the Messiah, son of Joseph, of Chabad Lubavitch. And one of the rites that they undertake is to go and visit the Rebbe's grave. And they are not the only ones who did it. Javier Milei, who is a Chabadnik Jew now, visited the Rebbe's grave. Robert Kennedy Jr. Visited the Rebbe's grave. I've done videos about this. So when Putin came to power, Putin was put into power by Berezovsky and other Jewish oligarchs to take the place of Yeltsin, who was an aging drunk, and they wanted someone who would cover up Yeltsin's corruption. But then Roman Abramovich and the Chabadnik faction of the Jewish oligarchs wanted to replace Vladimir Gusinsky, who was the head of the, I always have a hard time remembering it, the World Jewish Congress, I think it is. And he got into a fight with the newly appointed, with Yeltsin and with Putin. He was a big media figure. He wanted to expose the fact that Putin and the FSB had involved been involved in the false flag terrorism of the apartment bombings in Moscow. But yeah, it is World Jewish Congress. But the big thing was that Gusinsky was the head of Russian Jewry. And Chabad wanted to be the head of Russian Jewry. Russia and Israel are intimately connected, going all the way back to the fact that the nation of Israel was largely founded by Bolshevik Jews from Russia. Zionism was very big among Russian Jews. And they wanted to get rid of Gusinsky so that Putin's rabbi, he's literally called Putin's rabbi, Berel Lazar, could take over and become chief rabbi of Russia, which he did. Shlomo Dov Pinchas Lazar, better known as Berel Lazar, better known as Putin's rabbi, is an ultra-Orthodox Chabad Lubavitch Hasidic rabbi. He began his service in Russia in 1990, known for his friendship with Vladimir Putin, one of the three in the Troika, one of the Messiah, son of Joseph, on the Gentile side, since 2000. 2000 is when they got rid of Gusinsky and replaced him with Berel Lazar. It's important for you to understand that Chabad Lubavitch is immensely powerful. These people believe he is the Messiah of the Jews that will bring about the apocalypse, and that his soul will be reincarnated, and that there are two Messiahs. There's the Messiah, son of Joseph, who dies in a war with Iran and achieves all of these things: the building of the temple, the extermination of the Amalekites, and the anointing of King Messiah, Messiah, son of David, who will rule in the Messianic era and rule in peace, because all the Gentiles will be exterminated and the world will be brought into peace. A big, important figure in Chabad that you need to know about is Yitzhak Ginsburg. He is pushing the Noahide laws, which call for the decapitation of Christians. And that's a big part of Islam, and they utilize Muslims as their broom to sweep away Christians and decapitate Christians pursuant to the Noahide laws. Ginsburg, when Goldstein committed his massacres at the Baruch Goldstein committed massacres in a mosque. He shot up, I think it was with a Galil, and I think he had hand grenades. He massacred 29 Palestinian worshipers at the Cave of the Patriarchs in Hebron. The Cave of the Patriarchs is thought to be the entrance to the underground Garden of Eden. And Ginsburg tried to justify that by the eradication of the seed of Amalek. We just heard the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, state that he wanted to exterminate Amalek, meaning the Palestinian people. So this is an ongoing part of Chabad Lubavitch, and Ginsburg is a big part of it, and it's calling for the extermination of the seed of Amalek and war, meaning the extermination of the Palestinians and ultimately all Gentiles. This led, Ginsburg is also one of the ones who pushes very hard for the Noahide laws. You need to look into Education and Sharing Day. It is on the Rebbe's birthday. It is an officially acknowledged U.S. ritual, like visiting the Rebbe's grave, stating that the U.S. is based upon the Noahide laws. So you can go through and look at the Wikipedia page, but I have much more on where the Noahide laws come from and what they actually mean. Baruch Goldstein's students wrote a very important book called The King's Torah. That's something you absolutely have to look into. The King's Torah says it is permissible to kill Gentile women, babies, and children, and non-combatants, and even Jews, if it leads to the victory of the Messiah. The Messiah is the absolute king. The Messiah owns all the property in the world, which is why communism gets rid of property and hands it over to the Jewish leaders. That is all part of this messianic idea that the king owns everything, and the king has the right to kill whomever it is necessary to kill in order for the Jewish people to triumph, which is why the Rebbes said that the Holocaust was a good thing, because it amputated the limb of the evil Jews who were not worshiping the Torah. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. So when these Jews tried to lecture you about Holocaust denial, you should respond to them that their Rebbe said that the Holocaust was a good thing. And the sixth Rebbe, who appointed the seventh Rebbe, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, who said that the Holocaust was good and necessary, he was rescued by the Nazis. The Nazis rescued the sixth Rebbe from the Soviet Union and delivered him safely to the United States. So all this lecturing about the Holocaust, just throw it back to them right in their faces with Chabad and their celebration of the Holocaust. Two of Rabbi Yitzhak Ginsburg, who is a very prominent, very prestigious, top-level Chabad rabbi, wrote this King's Torah, which states that it is permissible. Here, let me get out of the way. I want you to have all of these sources so that when people, and it's appropriate for them to request sources. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying they themselves are hypocritical and don't do it. And they're pretending that the sources don't exist, but I suspect most of them know very well that the sources do exist, and they're just yanking your chain, Candace. In 2009, he published a book, The King's Torah, in which he argues that it is permissible for Jews to kill non-Jews, including children, under certain circumstances. Anti-Palestinian sentiments and incidents. You need to look into this guy. He's a Chabadnik, and he wrote and published the King's Torah. They are trying to hide it now, but it is utilized as justification by Netanyahu and by the whole Chabadnik cult for the extermination of the Palestinians. The other one involved with the King's Torah was Rabbi Yosef Elitzur, and he is seen as one of the spiritual leaders of radical right-wing activists. He is another Chabadnik you need to be familiar with, Rabbi Yosef Elitzur. So let's get into the Holocaust, their favorite subject. Oops, what did I do there? Anyway, you'll be able to find it. Rebbe Menachem Mendel Schneerson said that it was good that the Holocaust happened because it amputated a limb of the Jewish people that was rotten and that was pursuing communism and secularism. You'll be able to find it if you put in the keywords Rebbe Schneerson, limb, amputation, and Holocaust. The other Rebbe was rescued by Nazis. You can find that in the book by Brian Mark Rigg, who also wrote about Hitler's Jewish soldiers. And one of Hitler's soldiers saved the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Very interesting subject. One of the things that that Rabbi Shmuley Botek falsely claimed was that all the Frankists became Catholics. he didn't mention the fact that those Frankists who did become Catholics and did undergo the conversion that Frank called on all his followers to do only converted to Catholicism to undermine and subvert Catholicism in the same way that Shabbatai Tzvi called upon his followers to become Muslims to undermine and destroy Islam from within. That is found in Frank's and Shabbatai's own writings, where they specify that the conversion is simply a means of undermining from within in the way that Esther undermined the Persian kingdom of King Ahasuerus and led to the extermination of Haman and the Amalekites. These Frankists infiltrated the Catholic Church in Poland. They informed the church of the Talmudic writings against Christ, and they utilized the Catholic Church to bring in Freemasonry into the church to destroy the Catholic Church from within. This ultimately resulted in Vatican II. Don't believe those people who say that the Frankists had no power. They absolutely had power, but they are certainly not the only faction that we have to worry about. Jacob Frank's nephew was one of those who converted to Catholicism, and he was a Frankist who claimed to be the inheritor of that soul, the soul of Shabbatai Tzvi, passed on to Baruch Russo, known as Osman Baba, who founded the Dermait sect, which perpetrated the Armenian genocide. And that soul was claimed to pass on to Jacob Frank, and then on to Moses Dobrushka, who was one of the leaders of the French Revolution, which was in large part an attack on the Catholic Church. And he brought in Freemasonry into the Catholic Church and into Judaism, and helped to organize the first Jewish Masonic lodge in, I think, Frankfurt, Germany. So it is true that many converted to the Catholic faith, but they did so in order to undermine the Catholic faith. They divided Poland into three parts. They wanted to create a little Jewish nation within Poland where they could follow their own laws. But certainly not all Frankists converted to Catholicism. Louis Brandeis, the Supreme Court Justice, who had President Woodrow Wilson under blackmail, who utilized that blackmail to bring America into World War I in exchange for the Balfour Declaration, who did the banking investigations, which resulted in the Federal Reserve and the income tax to finance America's entry into World War I. Louis Brandeis, the Supreme Court Justice, was a Frankist. In their religious beliefs, although his family was Jewish, only his extended family practiced a more conservative form of Judaism, while his parents practiced the split-off movement of Frankism. Louis Brandeis was a Frankist. Louis Brandeis was one of the biggest Zionists in the world. So don't listen to those people who try to say that Frankism played no part in this, because it certainly did, and it did in the modern context, and it continues to do so. So what I wanted to convey to you today, most prominently, is that there is absolute proof that what you are quoting from Israel Shahak, quoting from the seventh Rebbe, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, is absolutely correct. It contextualizes the fact that they believe that Gentile souls derive from three satanic spheres, but I wanted to wake you up to the fact that Chabad is taking over the world. Chabad controls Trump. Chabad controls RFK Jr. Chabad controls Vladimir Putin, who is waging war. Chabad controls Benjamin Netanyahu, who is waging war and is trying to bring the whole world against Israel in order to fulfill all of the messianic prophecies that Chabad utilizes as its map of creation. They believe the Torah is a map of creation, and that these words written by their ancestors have divine meaning and must be fulfilled as their plans, and they are going about doing that. Please do contact me. You can find my contact information at my website, CJBBooks.com. I again want to congratulate you on your victory over Rabbi Shmuley, because you were presenting the truth. It was not a sporting match to get a gotcha moment and defeat the opponent. It was an attempt to arrive at the truth, and you presented the truth and presented it very well. Thank you very much for doing it. One of my goals for the past 20 years has been to expose Chabad Lubavitch, and you have now accomplished that. There is now a flurry of people exposing Chabad. Many of these people, I've been begging them to do it for a very long time, and they always shut me out. Please don't shut me out. Please get me on your program. I know more about this than anyone else in the world. I'm the foremost person who's been exposing this. This would not be such a well understood subject were it not for me. And I would like to continue to share that, and would be extremely grateful to you if you would have me on so that I can share that. I do hope you get the opportunity to see this. And once again, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye for now.